Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole from the Institute of Banking and Finance. Thank you for joining us for this IBF Masterclass, jointly organized with Sapience Consulting. We have with us Lionel Xiao, Principal Consultant at Sapience Consulting, who will be leading today's masterclass. Before we begin, allow me to introduce the Institute of Banking and Finance, our work for the past 50 years, and the resources we have to help professionals like yourselves in the financial industry. All right, I would like to hand over the time to Lionel from Sapience Consulting to take you through today's session. Over to you.
Thank you, Nicole. Very warm welcome to everyone who is taking their precious time off on a Friday afternoon. Okay, let me start off by sharing my screen first. Right, Canon, can everyone see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so once again, before I start the class, this webinar is about managing risk and compliance for financial industries, critical information infrastructures for the CRIs in the financial industry itself, right? So brief introduction about myself. My name is Lionel. I'm the principal consultant for Sapiens Consulting. And Sapiens is actually a boutique governance risk and compliance consultancy and training organization headquartered in Singapore. Within Sapiens itself, I'm actually heading the cybersecurity tower where we perform consulting services, as well as we also provide trainings in a number of industry leading certifications in the GRC space, right? So these are some of the certifications that I have. I'm a CSA approved CCOP cybersecurity auditor. I also have a variety of cybersecurity related certifications, as well as certifications that are pertinent to the GRC space, right? Okay, some disclaimer before we start today's session, right? So the views expressed during this webinar are those of my own and do not represent the official position of the following agencies, right? So they are not representative of CSA, MAS, as well as IBF, right? So I understand that if you guys are maintaining or responsible for your CIIs internally within your respective organizations itself, and if you do have clarifications, please do reach out to your respective regulator or CSA representatives for clarification, right? Okay, so this session is a 1 hour session. So within this 1 hour itself, there will be some time for question and answer. So along the way, if you guys have any questions that you would like to have it clarified, do type your questions in the Q&A screen, and we will clear those questions at the end of the session, right? So for the agenda today, what I'm going to cover is, first of all, I will give you guys an overview of the Cybersecurity Act 2018, right? And then once we have touched on a little bit about the Cybersecurity Act, then we will look at the Cybersecurity Code of Practice, all right? And specifically the second edition of the Cybersecurity Code of Practice. Once we have the next thing that we'll look at is when we look at the regulatory compliance requirements itself, what would be the key compliance areas that CIOs would typically need to be concerned with, specifically in the areas of risk assessment, risk management, as well as the conduct of the cybersecurity CCOP audit itself, right? Okay, so this is basically how we'll be spending the next 35-40 minutes before we go into the Q&A section. Right, so the Cybersecurity Act was passed through Parliament in 2018 itself. And basically, the objective of the Cybersecurity Act was to, provide Singapore the ability to strengthen the protection of critical information infrastructure against cyber attacks, right? In that particular year itself, there were notable cyber attacks that took place against the government and against public institutions. Right, so we're talking about hacks against MINDEF, hacks against um, SingHealth and some of the other agencies. Right. So with the Cybersecurity Act, it is also a way to authorize CSA to prevent and to respond to cybersecurity threats and incidents. Right, will establish a framework for the sharing of cybersecurity information um, within the amongst stakeholders within the industry itself. Right, so there's a framework in place for timely sharing, timely dissemination of relevant information, and of course, it is also to establish a light touch licensing framework for cybersecurity providers. Right? Cybersecurity service providers, the last objective is to essentially put some form of regulation in terms of um, making sure that organizations that are providing cybersecurity services are actually registered, and there is some control in terms of um, who are these organizations and the kind of services that they are offering, given the fact that these services are often very invasive, right? Could potentially be invasive. Okay, so before we begin, some basic terms and definitions that we'll be using throughout this session itself. CSA refers to the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore. Essentially, they are the custodians for cybersecurity, and they are responsible for making sure that as a nation, Singapore is adequately protected from the cybersecurity front, right? And one of the key areas that CSA is going to be concerned with is the security of CIIs, right? CIIs refers to your critical information infrastructure, right? The next slide, we'll talk about the definition of what constitutes a CII. And then we have a CIIO. A CIIO is a critical information infrastructure organization, right? Essentially, the CIO will own the CII, right? And from a legal perspective, CSA will actually hold this CIO accountable for the security of the CIIs, right? And the last term that we'll be looking at is actually what we call the CCOP. And the CCOP stands for the Cybersecurity Code of Practice. And essentially, this is a set of best practices that CSA has actually developed. And while it is a set of best practices, there is a legal effect to this code of practice, because any CII would then have to be protected according to the requirements specified in this code of practice, and the CIOs would then be held accountable for the protection of the CIIs. Okay, so what's the definitions of a CII? Okay, CII is going to be a critical information infrastructure, a computer system located wholly or partly in Singapore, necessary for the continuous delivery of an essential service, and the loss or compromise of the computer or computer system would have a debilitating effect on the availability of the essential service in Singapore itself. Right. So in short, any piece of equipment, any computer system that is essential for the provisioning, the support of essential service in Singapore itself. All right. And essential service, as defined in the Cybersecurity Act, is any service essential to the national security, defense, foreign relations, economy, public health, public safety, or public order of Singapore, and specified in the first schedule. All right. So this is essentially the two key definitions that that we are going to be looking at. Now, the Cybersecurity Act covers CIIs in a total of 9 different sectors. All right. If you And these sectors are the energy sector, the water sector, banking and finance, which is the basis of today's webinar. It will also cover healthcare, transport, which includes land, maritime, as well as aviation, the infocom sector, media sector, security and emergency services, as well as the government sector itself. All right. Now, these 9 sectors or 11 sectors, if you include the individual transport sectors itself, these are not a definitive list because, as the cybersecurity, as the industry matures, you will find that there will be more sectors that are being considered to be critical to Singapore's national security, for example. All right, so these sectors will increase moving forward. All right, so let's take a look at the cybersecurity code of practice and the evolution over the years itself. So like I mentioned earlier, the CCOP is currently in the second edition. The first edition was actually released in September 2018, shortly after, and actually it was together with the enactment of the Cybersecurity Act, right? And in December 2019, there was an addendum that was actually released to support the CCOP first edition. All right. And the first edition of the CCOP comprises of a total of 102 requirements, which CIOs are, required to comply with. All right. So we fast forward to July 2022, and this was when the second edition of the CCOP was released. And with the second edition, it actually comprises of 10 different requirement areas, as well as an annex, which you see on the right-hand side of the slide here. So you have the audit requirements, governance requirements, identification requirements, protection requirements, detection, response, and recovery, cyber resiliency, security training and awareness, operational technology and security requirements, as well as domain-specific practices, right? So what happened with the second edition was that all these different protection areas are meant to specify a minimum set of controls for CIOs. All right. So you are as a CIO, you are free to take whatever measures you deem suitable to secure your CIs. But at a very minimum, everything that's specified within the CCOP must be fulfilled, right? And this is for example, if we look at the financial sector, for example, the financial sector has been regulated through MAS TRM, your Technology Risk Management Guidelines, for the longest of time, right? And the TRM is considered to be very mature, right? Very comprehensive, and that's why most financial institutions who have already been subjected to TRM would find that the CCOP is actually not that difficult to comply with, right? Because most of the requirements have already been covered as part of TRM. Okay, and so what happened during this revision from edition 1 to edition 2 was essentially CSA incorporated the initial requirements from the first edition of the CCOP, incorporated um, industry best practices from sources like NIST. It also incorporated the findings from the SingHealth COI, the Committee of Inquiry, right, regarding the SingHealth data breach, right? So all these are the different sources that basically were considered as part of the development of CCOP's second edition, right? And with the second edition, there are additional clauses and requirements that were added into the different protection requirements areas, right? And the number of requirements that now needs to be complied with slightly more than doubled from 102 to about 220 plus requirements, right? Because the second edition of the CCOP was released in July 2022, um, organizations are actually, CIOs are actually given 1 full year to get themselves ready for compliance with the second edition of the CCOP. All right. So, and that compliance is supposed to be met from 2023 July onwards. Right. So we are already in the third month of we're in March of 2024. So most CIOs would already need to demonstrate compliance, right? Okay, so what's new in CCOP? So one aspect of the CCOP is that there is this thing called recurring requirements. Right? When we talk about recurring requirements, these are requirements that CIO needs to implement on a regular basis, on a recurring basis, right? So you'll find that on the screen, there's actually a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different requirements to conduct vulnerability assessment, to conduct penetration testing, to conduct red purple teaming attack simulation, to conduct threat hunting, scenario-based cybersecurity attacks, cybersecurity exercises, to measure the effectiveness of your cybersecurity awareness programs, to conduct your cybersecurity risk assessment, and to conduct your your CCOP compliance audit, right? And then on the second and third column, basically it tells you what is the compliance requirements that needs to be fulfilled, right? First instance within 12 months of designation, and thereafter either 24 months or 12 months, depending on the kind of recurring requirement that we are actually looking at. Okay, so with the second edition of the CCOP, some of these requirements are actually new, right? And the new requirements are those that I've highlighted in red on the screen, right? So for example, to conduct penetration testing, in the first edition, penetration testing for OT CIIs was actually optional, right? But with second edition onwards, CIOs with OT CIIs are now required to perform the first pen test within 12 months and thereafter once every 24 months itself, right? So for those who are not familiar, most environments are divided in terms of they are either called IT, which is for information technology, or OT, which is for operational technology. So OT environment typically refers to those kind of environments where we are talking about pumps, we are talking about your valves, your power stations, those kind of very low level type of environment itself, right? Another new requirement is to conduct threat hunting, right? So this was recently added, added into the second edition itself. Threat hunting basically means that from an organization perspective, you need to proactively go in and identify if any of your systems have been breached in any way, if potential attackers are lurking within your environment, right? And this has to be done proactively to make sure that your environment is a clean environment, all right? The next new clause that was added is to conduct scenario-based cybersecurity exercises. Now, previously, all these exercises were typically driven out by the regulators, right? Whether it is be it conducted by CSA or exercises that are conducted at the regulator level, be it SGX or MAS, sorry, be it MAS or LTA or any of the regulators, right? So moving forward with the second edition, CIOs are now expected to um, perform similar exercises within their organization itself, all right, and they're expected to use scenarios that are relevant to their environment, so that these scenarios enhance the effectiveness of the ability of their people to respond in the event this actual scenarios actually take place, right? The next new measure that new requirement that was actually added is essentially to measure the effectiveness of cybersecurity awareness programs. Now, uh, the conduct of cybersecurity awareness programs is not something new, all right? Right from the first edition, conducting cybersecurity awareness program for the whole organization is something that's considered mandatory, something that's considered essential, right? What is new in the second edition is that the conducting of the exercise is now a given. What you will now need to demonstrate is whether the exercise is actually effective. All right. So that's why we are now looking at the measurement of the effectiveness of your cybersecurity awareness programs. Okay. So these are the set of recurring requirements that CIOs would need to practice as part of CCOP 2.0. All right, so the next thing that we will go through is we will go through all the 11 different areas, the different requirement areas within CCOP 2.0. And I'm not going to highlight all the clauses within each of the sections itself. What I'm going to do is to basically highlight the key points within each of these requirement areas, all right? So that everyone gets a better understanding in terms of what are the more important areas to take note of for each respective requirement area, right? The first requirement area is the one that talks about audit requirements, all right? So from audit requirements perspective, now whenever you conduct audit, whenever the audit is performed on the CIO itself, the audit remediation plan has to be submitted to the commissioner within 30 days from the receipt of the audit report. All right, so which means that now CIOs, once the audit report is submitted to the CIO by the auditors itself, they have up to 30 days to, first of all, accept the report, come up with a set of remediation plan, get the management approval for the remediation plan, come up with and the remediation plan would have to include all the timelines. And once all these are actually agreed upon, then the final report would then have to be submitted to CSA. All right. Reason for this very simple. CSA obviously would be interested to know if there are any compliance gaps that has been identified, and more importantly, from the CIO perspective, what is being done to address those gaps itself, right? So this is for the audit requirement area. Okay, for the governance requirement area itself, there are a few more clauses that has been added, all right? The first clause is now senior management to have cybersecurity knowledge. Okay, so when we say senior management, ideally, if you can get every single member of your senior management team or your senior leadership team to go through some, to have cybersecurity knowledge, all right? But if your board or your C-suite doesn't have the time to spare for everyone to go and get trained in cybersecurity, at the very minimum, one member of the senior management must demonstrate that they have the necessary cybersecurity knowledge, right? So that's the first requirement. Second requirement is you need to demonstrate that within the organization itself, there is a healthy risk culture that is going to be supporting the organization, right? So you need to be able to demonstrate, as an organization, what is the level of awareness that everyone have as far as risk management is concerned, whether they are aware of their responsibilities, their roles, their responsibilities as far as risk management is concerned, what are the tools that's available, how are risk management activities embedded into your day-to-day activities. So all these are things that will demonstrate first of all, whether you have a risk culture. And secondly, then obviously, then the next thing that they will be looking at is, eventually how mature your this particular risk culture is going to be. All right. Okay, the next part is the incorporation of process hazard analysis methodology. This one is more specific to OT environments. Okay. There's also this requirement where we talk about the incorporation of security by design. Okay, now security by design is a concept where we look at organizations when they are designing new systems, new applications. We want to make sure that as part of the requirements gathering phase, as part of the initiation phase itself, we identified all the different security requirements that are relevant to the system. We identify all the potential risks that the system is going to be facing. And during the design phase itself, we want to make sure that we are able to identify security controls early and make sure that all these security controls are embedded as part of the system design, right? So that by the time we are able to release the system into our production environment itself, these systems are what we call inherently secure, right? With inherently secure systems, then obviously from an operations perspective, it becomes a lot easier for you to manage because, moving forward, you just have to worry about new vulnerabilities, new threats that are going to be surfacing, as part of your production environment, right? So this is security by design, right? The governance requirement area also has added clarity in terms of CIOs making use of cloud computing services itself, right? So there has been the cloud computing requirements have been reviewed, and that's the one of the notable areas where it was revised is that there's no longer a requirement for you to when you're using a cloud service provider, there's no longer a requirement for the CSP, the cloud service provider, to be physically located in Singapore, or to have the data physically located within Singapore itself, right? There are other requirements, right? But we're not going to go through all of them. And the last requirement from the governance area is actually, there must be the CIO must be able to demonstrate what we call management oversight of the change management process, right? For those of you who are familiar with service management or running IT operations itself, change management process is one of the key process that is important because it gives visibility to the organization in terms of what changes are taking place within within the environment itself, right? And this visibility of the changes that's taking place is important because it is at this juncture where you can then assert your control over the changes. You can then make sure that changes are reviewed and approved prior to you deploying the changes into your environment. And when we say reviewed and approved, part of this review and approval process would also include the organization performing a risk assessment, identifying what will be the potential impact of the changes, what would be the potential impact to security, right? So all these are, areas where the change management process is able to give visibility to the CIO, all right? Okay, so this is management oversight of the change management process. All right. Okay, identification requirements area. So this one basically talks about identifying your assets, identifying the type of traffic that's going into your environment, who are the users. So no notable changes that are significantly different from the first edition of the CCOP. Okay. In protection requirements. Okay, protection requirements basically we are looking at what are some of the controls that can be implemented to secure the different types of assets within our environment itself, right? So new clauses in this particular protection requirement area will talk about specifically your database simulation, database security. So we talk about what is the level of monitoring that you need to put in to monitor the databases? How do you identify what kind of transactions is taking place within your databases? And this is one clause that is directly attributed to your SingHealth COI, right? When we talk about the SingHealth data breach itself, that particular data breach occurred because the malicious actor actually went into SingHealth's systems, and they were basically looking for information that they were specifically targeting a few key members of the government itself for their health records. All right, so with this, now there's a requirement for CIOs to know exactly what kind of access is being performed on their databases, who is performing those accesses, when are those access being attempted. All right. And of course, the next one is when we talk about adversarial attack simulation. All right. So one of the protection requirements tells you what are the controls that needs to be implemented. So with adversarial attack simulation, this is going to be a targeted approach for you to go and test and validate all the different controls that you have implemented, right? And this is where we talk about the earlier clause when we mentioned scenario-based cybersecurity exercises, right? So these two clauses can actually be incorporated together, where your scenario-based cybersecurity exercises will then incorporate specific adversarial attack simulations against the key assets within your environment, right? So these are protection requirements. Right. So next area is detection requirements. Detection requirements essentially talks about as a CIO, you knowing what is the level of visibility you have with regards to what's happening within the environment itself. Right. So one of the things that they have actually tightened up with CCOP second edition is that they have increased the level of prescriptiveness as far as logging, monitoring, and detection controls are concerned. All right. So now it is no longer sufficient for you to say, oh, yes, I have a logging control in place, right? They will then go to the extent of saying, okay, I want to see this certain bits of information being captured. I want to see this certain bits of information being logged, this certain bits of information being reviewed on a regular basis, right? So it's no longer enough to say, yes, I'm reviewing the logs, right? You have to demonstrate what are you reviewing against? And more importantly, you also have to demonstrate the effectiveness of the review process, right? Then, of course, we mentioned there's a new control for threat hunting, right? Okay. Response and recovery requirements, not much different from the first edition. For cyber resilience requirements, again, no significant differences from CCOP version 1. Okay. Now, the next area is the area where we talk about cybersecurity training and awareness. So like I mentioned earlier, cybersecurity training and awareness is a clause that was already present in CCOP version 1 itself. But with version 2, there is a new clause that now talks about the ability to measure the effectiveness of your cybersecurity training that you have that you're rolling out to your organization. So it's no longer enough to say that I'm doing it. You must be able to demonstrate that what you're doing, what you're rolling out to your organization itself is effective. All right. Additionally, CSA has also mandated competency certification requirements specifically for CISA and series. All right. So what they have done is that they have specified that earlier when I talk about the recurring requirements, I mentioned that there was a need for CIOs to do risk assessment on an annual basis and to conduct a cybersecurity audit once every 2 years. All right. So with CCOP version 2, apart from performing these activities annually and once every 2 years, there's now the additional requirement to say that all risk assessment reports generated in the annual risk assessment exercise must now be signed off by someone who is certified series, all right, or equivalent. All right, series stands for certified in risk and information systems controls. This is a risk-related certification by ISACA, right? CISA stands for Certified Information Systems Auditor, right? And this is the second requirement where they say that for CCOP audit reports, any report, any CCOP audit report has to be signed off by someone who is CISA certified or equivalent, right? So obviously they cannot specify that it's only CISA or only series, so that's why they put it as equivalent. But the thing is that CSA has not published an equivalent list of certifications. So if you think that you have suitable audit background, suitable audit certifications that can demonstrate your competencies, you are free to write in to CSA to check if your certification is on one of the equivalent lists, right? And then of course, you must have a comprehensive security awareness program for all staff. Okay, so that's the training and awareness requirement area. Right, for the OT area itself, there's a new clause where now specifically they are targeting the monitoring of field controllers. Previously, it was more from the control room perspective, and now they are targeting your field controllers as well. All right. Okay, domain-specific areas, not much areas of concern. Specifically, with the second edition, what they have actually added in would be specific controls related to your domain name services, the security of your domain name services, right? Okay, so with CCOP version 2, there is also annex where CSA has actually put in place talking about guidance for the strengthening of your organizational cybersecurity posture. All right. So this is not part of the cybersecurity code of practice, which means that this is not going to be auditable. Right. So when the auditors come in to conduct the CCOP audit itself, this is not an auditable part of this is not something that they'll be covering as part of the audit. But obviously, CIOs, organizations are encouraged to implement whatever is specified in the annex. Okay, now risk assessments. Now, you see on the left-hand screen, the right-hand corner, you see a QR code. So the QR code will give you a direct link to the relevant CSA document that we are talking about. All right. So as far as risk assessment is concerned, CSA has actually come up with a guidance document in terms of how CIOs should go about conducting their risk assessments and what are the unique part about the approach that CSA has actually developed as part of their risk assessment, risk guidance framework itself. All right. So risk assessments must be conducted at least once every 12 months, right? There is a big difference between conducting your risk assessment once every 12 months and annually, all right? Once every 12 months does not equate to annually, because when you do once every 12 months, you have to do it within a 12-month period of time, all right? But if you do it annually, I could do my first assessment in January and I could do my second assessment next December. So which means that potentially there could be a gap of 24 months, all right? So that's why they are very specific to say that your risk assessment is once every 12 months, all right? You can do it earlier, but you cannot do it further, all right? You cannot do it longer than 12 months. Right? And you look at CSA's guidance on risk management itself, there are certain aspects of the risk management guidance that is unique to CSA. So for example, when it comes to definitions, defining your likelihood for your risk itself, CSA uses discoverability, exploitability, and reproducibility, right? I'm not going to go into the specifics of DER, but it is a slightly different approach from the method that most organizations are using, where they use a tiered approach to determine what is the likelihood. All right, for example, once in 50 years, once in 10 years, once in a year, and so on. All right. As far as likelihood is concerned, CSA, sorry, as far as impact is concerned, CSA uses CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So again, these are two slightly different approaches that are defined within the CSA risk guidance document, right? We also have things like your risk scenarios, a list of mandatory information that CSA wants to see within your risk register itself, things like your risk owner, the interface locations, and so on and so forth. All right. And of course, there's also a report structure. So when you submit your report to CSA itself, then they also want to see someone who is um, there's a particular structure that you need to submit your report in, right? So I mentioned this earlier, whoever the report has to be signed off by someone who is a series certified or equivalent. And over time, your risk assessment process, you will be expected to incorporate security by design as well as threat modeling, okay, into the risk management process itself, right? Okay, as far as CCOP cybersecurity audits are concerned, cybersecurity audits have to be conducted once every 24 months. All right, and incidentally, this year is the year where a lot of the CIOs will be required to conduct the next phase of the cybersecurity audits. All right. So point to note is that your auditors, the auditors that you are going to select, you cannot select them prior to CSA giving the approval for these auditors. All right. So CSA has a process in place to allow CIOs to say that, okay, this year we are going to conduct the cybersecurity audit. These are our proposed CCOP auditors, and then you have to submit all the information of your proposed auditors for CSA to vet, right? So obviously the first requirement is that they need to be familiar with auditing methodologies. They need to have cybersecurity background, and there's a requirement for whoever is going to be signing off on the audit report to be CISA certified or equivalent. All right. Now remember, once the auditors are approved, if there's a change to any auditors, you are required to get the new auditors reapproved before you can conduct the audit. All right. If the auditors are not reapproved in time, then your audit validity may be questioned. Right. And as far as audits are concerned, the audits are not just a compliance audit. All right. The auditors are not just expected to come in and say, oh, this clause, do you have the control in place? Do you comply with this control? No, it is a compliance and effectiveness audit. And that is why the auditors are expected to have cybersecurity background, right? Because the auditors are required to come in and ascertain the effectiveness and the efficiency of whatever controls that has been implemented, right? Okay, next thing is validation of controls for approved waivers, right? Now, waivers is a process of, waivers is a process that CIOs go through to get certain areas exempted, certain requirements in the code of practice exempted for whatever reasons, right? So normally how the process works is that the CIO will then put in an application to CSA. CSA will review and will then decide if the application is to be approved, right? As part of the application process, the CIO is supposed to come up with a list of supporting controls or complementary controls that are already in place, right? So once the waivers are approved, when the auditors come in to perform the audit itself, one of the first things that they will also be looking at is to validate the controls for your approved waivers, right? You have your waivers approved on the basis of certain controls that you have implemented. So what we're going to do is the auditors will then come in and make sure that those controls are actually in place, right? And that's why the last section of the audit report basically covers the auditor opinions on the effectiveness of the implemented controls, right? So it's not just a pure compliance audit. We are also looking at the effectiveness of controls, right? Must be signed off by someone who is CISA certified or equivalent, and the report must be as per the CSA prescribed format. Right. These are some of the references to the various links, CSA documents that we have referenced for today's webinar, right? And this effectively marks the end of my session. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to pass the session to my colleague Justin, who will be running through an introduction of some of the courses that we have. While I run through the list of questions, so he will cover a little bit of introduction first, while I review the questions, and then after that, then we will follow through with the Q&A sessions. All right, Justin, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Lionel, for the very interesting insight itself. So, in view of the time that I have, I think we only have about 10 to 15 minutes left. So, just want to follow up with what Lionel have shared itself. So, for us, Sapient itself, we do conduct some cybersecurity trainings that CIOs can consider sending their staff to. So, okay, so one of the trainings, actually just now Lionel has mentioned two courses itself. So the first one is actually our Certified Information System Auditor course. It's called CISA itself. So the schedule is there, the course fee is there, and then if you can see, there is actually a QR code on the right-hand side of the slide itself. If for those who are keen to know more about the course details, the course agenda, and then do you need to have any prerequisite before attending the course, you can actually scan the QR code to get a better understanding of what this course is about. And of course, the good thing is for us, because this course is also certified and accredited under IBF fundings itself, please do come to speak to myself or any of my teams to know about your IBF funding's eligibility itself. Then the next course that we have is actually, as what Lionel has mentioned, is series itself. It's certified in risk and sorry. Certified in risk and information system control itself. The course schedule and the course fee is also as shown in the slide itself. As I also, there's a QR code on the right-hand side that you will be able to scan to get to know more about the course outlines, the course detail, and the course agenda itself. And also, as what I have mentioned in the previous slide itself, please come to us to know more about your IBF funding eligibility itself, because for some of you who are working in the financial institutions, or for those who are even for those who are not working in any of the financial institution itself, you will be able to claim for some IBF fundings if you are keen to actually attend the course itself. And of course, this is a list of our upcoming courses that we are scheduled in the month of April next month. Okay, and also the month of May itself. Okay. And so these are some of the clients that we work with itself. As you can see, we do work with a lot of clients who are in the financial industry itself. We have banks, we have insurance companies, we also have investment firms itself. And also there are some of the reviews that we have that clients actually say about us itself. So what I have actually summarized is you can actually scan this QR code itself. Don't worry, it's actually safe for you to scan the QR code, for you to actually read through the Google's reviews that we have accumulated from all our past participants, saying how the course is being run by our trainers, and then also some other reviews that we have received itself. So all these reviews will prove that our trainers is really well experienced and well and knowledgeable in conducting the course. And of course, the last one or the last slides that I have itself before we go on to the Q&A sessions is, if you have any questions about the course itself, the course details, the course fundings, and whether you are eligible for any IBF fundings, please, you can also scan my digital name card here. My email address and also my mobile number is also as indicated in the slide itself. You can also WhatsApp me, you can drop me an email, you can also give me a ring for if you are keen to know more about the courses that we actually offer here over at Sapience itself. So I will leave this one just for a short while itself. Then the next thing that we are going to go through is to actually, because from what I can see, we do have some questions coming in our Q&A. Since we do have some time left, even though it's not much, we will try to answer some of the Q&A questions that is being posted over at this in the chat box itself.
All right. So thank you, Justin. So very quickly, let me run through some of the questions that you folks have actually listed down in the Q&A section. For those of you guys who have questions but you have not seen those questions itself, do feel free to enter your questions, and we'll try our best to answer all of them during the session itself. All right. So the first question regarding governance requirements, how do you demonstrate knowledge from a senior management perspective? Must we have internal staff certified, particularly if we have external consultants to help? Okay, so let me try to understand a little bit more about this question and try to break it down. Try to break down the question itself. All right. So the first part is how do you demonstrate senior management having the prerequisite cybersecurity knowledge? All right. As far as from a compliance perspective is concerned, all right, it's very honestly, it's not easy for you to demonstrate that your senior management, I mean, senior management as it is busy, they are already so busy. So it is unlikely that they are going to spend time attending formal security courses. All right. So what we are looking at is the kind of targeted transfer of knowledge that is provided to your senior management team. All right. And remember, this is part of the training awareness. So what you effectively have to put in place is to have a training and awareness program specifically targeting your senior management. And remember from the CCOP, there's also the additional requirement where now you also have to demonstrate the effectiveness of whatever awareness training that you have conducted. Right. So this is the first part. Now the second part is internal staff certified, particularly if we have external consultants helping us. Right. So the way I understand this is that most CIOs these days, when they are conducting their risk assessments, when they are conducting their cybersecurity audits, usually these are done through the engaging of third-party consultants. Right. So a lot of the CIOs actually engage third-party consultants to come in to do the risk assessment exercises, to perform the CCOP audits. And that's why the CCOP auditors have to be approved, vetted and approved by CSA in the first place. All right. While the requirement, if you go strictly by the code of practice itself, the code of practice says the people signing off on the risk assessment report, signing off on the assessment, the audit report has to be series certified or CISA certified. It doesn't say that your own staff have to be certified. Right? So if you look at it from the code of practice perspective, no, there's no requirement for your own internal staff to be certified. However, from a governance perspective, it doesn't make sense if your consultants give you a report, they are certified, but internally within your own organization itself, you don't have anyone who's also certified to validate the report itself. Right? So while if you go by the code itself, there's no requirement for your own guys to be certified. From a governance perspective, it would make sense for you to make sure that internally there is someone certified to be able to validate the reports internally before you submit to CSA. All right. Right, next question. When you follow the CSA risk guidance, can I use my own organization's risk framework? Yes, you can. All right. The principle is, or the objective is that all organizations need to practice risk management. All right. It doesn't have to be CSA's framework. In fact, CSA does make it clear that if you have an alternative framework, CIOs are free to submit the framework to CSA for them to review, for them to understand more about the framework itself. All right. But having said so, remember, when you have your own alternative framework itself, it's not just CSA that you need to socialize the framework with. Every 2 years, whenever the auditors comes in, you need to socialize your new framework with the new set of auditors. Right? The auditors are going to be very familiar with whatever is already recommended by CSA. But when you have something that's different, right, they have to basically relearn your framework itself. All right. So yes, you can use your own framework, but do note that there may be additional efforts needed for you to socialize all these frameworks with CSA, with the auditors, every audit cycle itself. All right. Can the cybersecurity audit be conducted by internal auditors or external auditors? Very good question. All right. There is actually, I don't believe there is a specific requirement for the auditors to be external to your organization. Correct. But obviously, the auditors have to fulfill the necessary competency requirements, have to have the necessary cybersecurity background, and more importantly, there must not be any conflict of interest. Right? I would think that from organization perspective, it's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult for you to find, for example, someone who is going to have cybersecurity background, but is not doing cybersecurity within your organization. Right? So yes, it is not specifically specified, but I do believe you can use internal auditors, but they will have to go through the same vetting and approval process by CSA. Okay, would there be any materials that we can reference for what is appropriate approved waivers? No, there is by default no waivers. Waivers are through exceptional approval, right? By default, all CIOs are required to comply 100% with the cybersecurity code of practice. All right. If you have very pressing reasons or you have very good reasons as to why a particular clause should not apply to you, only then you will put in the waiver application. All right. So it is approval by exception, not by norm. Okay. In terms of types of activities, what firms are covered under the banking sector of CII? Okay, so firms that are covered under the banking sector are typically, you can find these firms under the MAS website. So MAS actually maintains a list of approved financial institutions. All right, so this covers the organizations that are considered to be in the financial sector itself, right? But not all financial institutions will have CIIs, all right? So only when CSA deems that your system is critical enough to have a national level impact, will they designate that particular system as a CII, all right? Only when your CII, only when you receive the letter of designation from a CSA, then you become a CIO, CIIO, all right? If you don't have the letter of designation, then you are not considered a CIO. Okay. What are the necessary requirements such as cybersecurity and audit requirements for launching a new FI mobile app? And by when is the mobile app expected to launch? Okay, the second part, by when the mobile app is expected to launch, that one I wouldn't be able to answer because that would be very dependent on the app itself, right? But when it comes to the cybersecurity and audit requirements, you will find that within the code of practice itself, CSA actually specifies requirements in terms of application security, in terms of your infrastructure security. So there is no difference, and of course that mobile app has to be designated to be a CII first before it gets covered under the CTOP requirements applies to the mobile app, right? So usually individual applications are usually not designated as CIIs, all right? But I could be wrong. Okay, we'd like to clarify if these requirements for CCOP audit applies to licensed trust businesses, all right? So like I explained earlier, the CCOP requirements will only apply if you have received a letter of designation from CSA. All right, CSA would have usually how the designation process works is that the CSA will actually work with the respective regulators. So in the financial sector space itself, they will actually work with MAS. MAS will then identify all the different FIs with big enough systems or critical enough systems, and then all the systems will be submitted to CSA. CSA will review, and if approved, then CSA will issue the designation letters directly to the financial institution, and thereafter that particular system will be designated as the CII, and once designated, you will then need to comply with the cybersecurity code of practice. All right. Okay, good. Next question. We are not CII, but the CCOP guidance is good. Yes, it is. Is there a technical guidance available to help guide us along to implement the required controls? Technical guidance, the CCOP requirements are actually pretty high level. they specify the control objectives, but they don't really go into the specifics of how you need to implement this. Remember, I mentioned earlier that one of the objective of the CCOP is to specify a set of minimum controls, right? So there's no technical guidance per se, but CSA is very helpful. If you think that you want to implement this, but you're not a CII, just have a word with CSA and they will point you to the right resources, or you can also give us a call. All right. Right. So that is that's all the questions I have. Oh, when I mean languages, I mean ITC languages, programming languages. No, CSA doesn't go into this particular area. So if you check CSA's website, CSA has actually introduced a set of guidelines for secure application development. Right, so that particular set of guidelines you can actually use as the basis, as some technical reference in terms of identifying what kind of controls you can actually put in place to develop secure applications, for example. Right, so CSA does provide guidance documents for specific areas. All right, any other questions? Has MAS and CSA already identified FIs that are considered CII and therefore already sent those letters out? Yes. The initial batch of designation letters were actually sent out in 2018 itself, correct? So from 2018, now we are in 2024, and given that the audit has to be completed once every 2 years, we are now in the third cycle of the cybersecurity audit. The first being in 2020, the second cycle in 2022. In 2024, most of the CIIs will be undergoing the third cycle of cybersecurity audit. And key difference between this year's audit is that this year's audit will be using CCOP second edition as the basis as the audit criteria itself. Okay, is the list public to view? No, it's not. It's a matter of national security. So we don't let everyone know who our critical information infrastructure organizations are. Does the license last forever? Okay, so in the interest of time, we will be answering the last question. All right. Does the license last forever? No. Every time the designation letter is issued, it is valid for 5 years. All right. And the license will then be, the designation letter will then be reviewed on a regular basis. And if the system is no longer deemed to be critical, then the designation will be revoked. And new designations can then be issued along the way. All right. Okay, so thank you very much. We have overrun slightly. All right. I will hand the session over to IBF, to Justin.
Okay, thanks.